Hey, Jeanene.
Hey, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Let me see. It's not letting me into the Maestro board. What did I do?
Maybe it's a bad link.
Huh. I don't. It doesn't think I'm dialed in. So maybe it's the wrong link. Is the link that's in the doc the wrong link?
I'll try to get the right one. Okay, I got it. I'm going to put it into the agenda.
Okay, there you go. Is it where the old one was?
I haven't opened the agenda.
Yep, here I am.
Oh, it worked?
Okay.
I didn't do it yet.
Oh, okay. That's why I went back to the same wrong one. I've had too much coffee today.
Okay. Come on. Okay, now try it.
Alrighty. Okay.
Now you'll be able to hear me.
Yes.
All right, good. My voice is just jacked the heck up.
Did a little yelling this weekend, did you?
It wasn't from the yelling. I'm sick from it.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. But here's the greatness of this. It changed my life. 4 days. No joke.
Hey, no doubt.
No, I of all the things that I'm going to say here right now, Eric, you really should go to this. This is right up your alley. And not only that, that's 5,000 more people that you can have an influence on. That's all I'm saying about that. And it's a great place to network. It would change a whole heck of a lot. Jeanene, you should go too. Everybody should damn go. It's amazing.
I've been to similar things. I mean, not with him specifically, but definitely I've been to life-changing events.
Yeah, it's different. Well, then again, it depends upon what you're talking about, like in reference to comparison. I learned a whole hell of a lot about me. So, hi, Dan.
Exactly.
Hi. How are you?
I'm now a pescatarian.
You're what? Wait, no.
I'm now a Pescatarian. Pescatarian.
You're a worshiper of the fish.
Yes, I will be eating fish and vegetables for the rest of my life.
You go, boy.
I'm sorry?
I said, you go, boy.
All right.
Well, you'll be a thermometer soon without a mercury.
Well, I'm not exploding it, I promise you that.
Well, come on out to Oregon. Buy us a bottle of wine. Dan and I will listen.
Oh, yeah. I'm not drinking alcohol, though. I'll be in San Jose.
Wait, we'll listen to what? Well, more wine for me and Jeanene. That's not a bad thing.
That's right. We'll have wine. You watch. We can have wine. We'll listen. So when are you going to San Jose?
San Jose, probably in June.
June what?
I have to get the dates. I'm trying to bring my wife out there.
My niece is graduating from the University of Santa Clara, which is like, basically her house address is San Jose, on like June 15th. So we'll be down there for graduation, and then we'll fly over to Big Island for her luau, her graduation luau.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
No, it'd be nice to fly out to Hawaii afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't want to take up the board's time in reference to like my personal life here. So
well, we haven't started the call
yet.
yet, so you can gab all you want because there's two people. We're waiting for two people. Can somebody text Justin and I'll text Egberto?
I can text Justin.
Okay, let him know that we're on the call. See if and let him ask him if he's coming. If he's not, then we won't wait for him. Hey.
Yeah, of course. Oh, Eric, he emailed you.
Hey, guys.
Oh, there he is. Hola.
Yeah.
Are you still at the polling place?
Oh, yeah, the polling place closes at 7. It's not a very good polling day in that a lot of people didn't show up. But you know what? It's a democracy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is it a polling day all over the country or just in Texas?
A couple of states, but not here.
Yeah.
If it's Tuesday.
Yeah,
well,
it's
in Oregon, we vote by mail.
That's the best way to do it, I tell you, because we got some ice in today, and the ice was so thick, I think it held back a lot of people from voting.
Yeah, you know, I have Facebook friends in Texas, and they were all upset because there was no safe way to get to their polling place.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I got up this morning because I had to be out here at 6 in the morning, so that means I only got 4 hours worth of sleep. Again.
So that's the grand scheme. I get it now. You deny climate change, and then you use it for voter suppression.
That sounds like only something Dan Aronson could say.
That's a blog post waiting.
Absolutely, man. This is just too funny.
Dan Aronson, what's wrong with you, buddy?
That only works if you're it only works if you're Cobra and you have the weather dominator.
I think it's brilliant myself.
Hey, these people have been watching me. This is my 3rd conference call of the day while at the polls. I'm going crazy.
And no offense, brother, but you sound like shit. Are you okay?
I am shit right now. Trust me. I'm tired as hell. But you know what? Dan Aronson, just hearing your voice makes my day, man. And no, I am not.
Well, you know, I will leave a daily recording where you can call up then and hear my voice. Or you can just call me. That's fine. I am here for you.
Forgive me for being a little bit sick on this call.
Hey, where have you been, Mr. Cameron?
Oh, I was down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at Anthony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean one of those feel-good things?
It ain't just feel-good, brother.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time. You're supposed to
I know.
Just take it. Jesus Christ.
No. I'm just sick. It sounds like I'm pissed off. I'm not sick. I'm not pissed off. I'm sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the whole process. I guess you stay up for like 4 days straight, and then you get home and you're supposed to get sick. That's what I understood.
Drink a lot.
Drank a lot of water. And a lot of weak grass lately.
Okay, well, I
texted
Justin. I texted Justin. I haven't heard back yet, but we have 5 out of 6. It's pretty good.
No.
What did
Yeah,
Justin
I got him. He said I emailed Eric. Can't make it in meetings. Sorry about that. Ugh, never ends his meetings.
Okay.
Well, should we just start with should we start with check-ins?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to check in first. my warning is that I am high on migraine medicine. So if it wears off, my voice will get lower and lower and lower. And so I'm pretty sure I've timed it, so I'll make it through the meeting. I don't get to say when I have a headache, but I'm really, really excited to be here with everybody, and I missed you. So I'm in with that. How about Egberto?
Hello, everybody. I'm here in Kingwood, Texas. Cold ice on the trees. Crazy this time of the year. I'm running a poll for the party right here. People are voting, not as many as we'd hoped, but it's happening just fine. Other than that, I'm tired. I'm working on a little bit of sleep and a little bit too much work. But hey, that's what the cause is all about. And with that, I'm out.
You're in. Dan.
Enjoying our second in a row 60-degree day here in Portland. Got out both days with the dog for walkies, and I've just been enjoying it because no, it's not going to last.
That's right. We have a storm coming. Thanks, Dan. Cameron.
Yeah, I'm fresh off of a very, very unique experience, that's for sure. I am sick as a dog. I've got a lot going on. I look forward to the 15th of March when Mr. Michael Schultenover gets back. And I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of my life here. So hope everybody's well, and I'm looking forward to this call. It's freezing effing cold here. And with that, I'm in.
Thanks. Eric, I don't see Justin yet, so why don't you check in?
Okay, I'm about to leave on a road trip for Selma, Alabama. It's the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and it's a yearly thing that actually is a big part of the feature film that we're finishing up. Last year's event was. This year, everything's kind of coming full circle because Reverend Barber from North Carolina is a keynote speaker at the Selma Bridge event. So it's going to be a fun trip, and then on the way back we'll go to coastal North Carolina where they are dealing with the hospital closing. I hope you all have seen that video.
Yeah, I saw the video. That actually was a very good video. I mean, I'd like to see that used into actually creating a real narrative that can make some change, effect some change in this country, because that is a microcosm of what's not only happening in South Carolina, but all through the country, and getting no coverage as to why, if these folks are not allowed to get the Obamacare Medicaid expansion, what the results are going to be. It's a story that's not being told and not given context. I think we should be telling that story.
Let's talk about it on Newsroom tomorrow, because there's a lot more to it than the Medicaid thing, but it certainly is a factor.
It's a major factor.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's go into the agenda. The fake book is first, Jeanene?
The what is? Oh, the fake book? Sure. I did just raise a question about the minutes. I know, Eric, that you talked about catching this up. You talked about catching this up, and I was just going to try to get some of us to volunteer to do a meeting or two so that you didn't have to do it all by yourself, and also to get permission to forward the action with regard to Vince, because we actually sort of left him hanging because we were doing this other stuff, right? And so if you've seen the agenda, you know what I'm asking. Should we move forward with Vince independently of two other candidates? And is anyone willing to do a meeting or two of a minute summary to help Eric catch up? Nobody's hands are up. Nobody's hands are up. I'll chase you down on email. That's all good.
Yeah. I don't have good access to my buttons right now, so can I say stack when I want to, if I need to speak? Is that okay?
Sure. Well, you can press. You can always press 1, can't you? Or you don't have access to your buttons.
Yeah, because I can't show my phone while I'm here.
Oh, got it. Okay. The voice recognizes the anonymous voice on the phone that shouldn't be there.
Ridiculous. Love it.
Okay, so I'll go to the fake book, and basically, this is a shock, you guys. It's a shock. We made over $4,000 last month. It all came in the second half of the month. And so you can see that we've got all our bills are paid. We have money in the bank, and I'm actually able to. We used to have a practice of paying on $500 a month. Somebody's breathing really hard on the phone.
Egberto?
Anyway, yeah, I think so. Do you want me to mute you, Egberto, and for a bit, or just twist your phone? So anyway, we used to pay $500 a month toward our debt, and we've had to stop that for several months because we just weren't in any position to pay money. And this month we had money, and so I had made a couple little loans to us that I had to have paid back as soon as possible. And then I was able to pay those back, those two little loans, and then make a payment towards Eric's $1,500 that hasn't been paid since Enough is Enough. So we're, actually finally starting that last chunk of payoff for Enough is Enough. However, here's my caveat, you guys. We have had a record number of cancellations and even a complaint to PayPal because I think this huge amount of money, and I've been tracking this backwards to see what's going on, and I'm pretty sure that this is it. Either last February or the February before, we had big membership enrollment, campaign. And so when we switched from Blue State Digital to Nation Builder, it became possible for those renewals to automatically renew. So people either automatically paid $5 again next month or $50 again next year. And so we are surprising a lot of people who have been Coffee Party members but have never had automatic renewal. They've always been contacted with an email instead. And it's upsetting a bunch of people. And so what Debilyn and I started drafting an email today. We're going to have like 2 different emails. If I need a third template, I'll make one. But basically saying, if you want your money back, I want to write you a check. Because, if they paid $30, it costs us $50 to pay them if PayPal does it. So I'm trying to mitigate the cancellations and say, I'm happy to write you a check. This is the address I have for you. Is that okay? Thanks for being a part of the Coffee Party. Look forward to seeing you on pages and in the street, right? So it's friendly, but it's letting them know I'm going to write them a check. Please don't ask PayPal for the money back. The other one is to say, I hope this is okay. If you were surprised, I hope you understand this is what happened. And if you don't want to be automatic, here's how you cancel. Not offering to pay them. And then the third one, I don't know what. We'll see what shows up when I do this. So there's a potential here that some of this money will be returned. But just statistically speaking, it won't be, it's not going to be $1,000. So we still had a record month last month. So
right.
while we have money in the bank, I made $500 towards loans, paid all of our bills, and we still have cash. So and the bill included the rubber check, because the rubber check I wrote went to our covering account. We've got this line of credit that'll cover a bad check, and we didn't have to pay any bad checks. Bless you.
Thank you.
So that's any questions about the money?
No.
Thank you. Looks like
somebody's
handing it back to you, Eric.
Jeanene, what's your recommendation? What do you think is the fairest thing to do in terms of alerting people that this process of renewal has changed?
Well, actually, my opinion is this, that we should let it auto-renew, but the month before we should say your automatic renewal is coming up next month. And we, you know what I mean? Just give them a heads up. We've had a great year. Hope you'll stay with us. But if you don't want to, you must cancel before this date. That kind of thing. I think that would be ideal. But the monthly membership letters are something that just have had to fall by the way because, like, I can only do so much. Debilyn can only do so much. Mm-hmm. So as we're now putting ourselves back together, membership management. If you do this right, it's hugely gratifying. you get a lot of return for your time if you do membership right. And so I would propose that one of the new directors be a membership director. But in the meantime, I think from now, I'm going to see if I can put together a template letter, and we'll just like at the 25th of this month, we'll contact everybody that automatically renews next month and give them a heads up. So at least they won't complain to PayPal, because the worst thing that could come out of this is if they really go to town with PayPal, we could lose PayPal privileges, and then we're in the, dead in the water.
Well, what about the people, though, that already were renewed?
I wouldn't. I was thinking about that because I was trying to think of what the threshold would be. Like, okay, if I have to send out 25 of these personalized emails, should we do an email blast to everyone that's renewed in the last month, and just say something like, it's come to our attention that this was awkward. It's a transition from one platform to the other. Kind of caught us by surprise too. Thanks for continuing your membership, and here's what we're going to do from now on. We'll warn you the month before. I think that might be wise, but it will be best worded, I think, after I actually find out how many of these cancellations and skipped payments and concerns we have. Because right now I can tell you there's at least 15, and that's actually a pretty high number to have people upset. So, and one official complaint to PayPal that I'm resolving by writing the guy a check personally.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's
make it an AR then. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Well, let's make it an AR to write to these folks. I mean, I'd be sorry if they cancel, but it seems like the fair thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have some personal contact, because a lot of the stuff that comes in and out of our site now is auto reply, and I think it's important to have somebody, a name and a face and a voice contacting people. Because I like auto renewal, but I think people just were shocked. They were surprised by it, and I think our job is to make them comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rapport is power.
Egberto?
Yeah. Can I be heard?
Yes.
I'm here. Yeah. I don't know if the auto renew. I think most people, once told about the auto renewal, most people are actually okay with it. I mean, all the people in our organization use the auto renewal feature for the recurring, that is, for the thing. So I'm wondering, did PayPal give you some sort of a threatening letter of it, or what? Because isn't that in the ask when they renew? I mean, when they made that yearly contribution or whatever.
Well, the 15 or more that I'm talking about are people who are pissed off.
Okay.
And and frankly, for us, it is a change, because when we were running this through Blue State Digital, this auto renewal thing didn't happen. And so we had to take the time to remind them, and then plead with them to rejoin, and all that, which is fine. But so I think people who've been with us all along even were surprised that no one asked; they just took. It's just a change, I think. Mm-hmm. It was different. Because I don't think anybody that signed up under this situation, well, I don't know, because, this is our first go-round with this. We only switched over. We only activated Nation Builder, last February.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the other thing is that PayPal normally, when you set up the auto renewal with PayPal automatically send you an email stating that you will get revealed whether it's a monthly or or an annual renewal. So I mean, it doesn't do it blindly. It tells you that that's what it's doing. So that's just kind of surprising to me.
Yes, that's why I.
Go ahead, Jeanene.
No, I was just going to say that's why I think it's mostly the people who had renewed in the past but manually renewed. I think it just surprised them. So that's why I want to reach out and talk to them, so that they understand that, yes, it's a change, that we didn't do anything to them, that it happened. Because I think some of these people rolled over. You know what I mean? I don't know that everybody actually agreed to this. It's just when in the new system, annual memberships were automatically renewed.
I think they all had to, Jeanene. I don't think
right.
That's
what
really just
right.
That way.
Right, which is
really
a change.
quickly,
that's all.
Yeah.
That's just a change.
For those people that first became members back in 2011 and renewed in 2012 and renewed in 2013, what's changed is they were automatically renewed this year. And Jeanene and I will work on a letter together to write to them to explain that happened. It's a small subset of our members, but these are actually our most loyal people of all time, so let's make sure we reach out to them.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next. As far as the minutes, I'm going to take with me this document on my road trip, and I'll hammer them out while I'm stuck in the car. And then I also was saying, maybe we should just, we need to get busy on bringing on the new members. And should we start with Vince and then just get our feet wet, and that'll help us start setting the other two that we are going to bring on? Should we just do it?
I want to bring on Debilyn.
I second that motion.
In other words, a woman before anybody else.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing, it would be easier for the board development group if we gave it, it's just as easy to do 3 as it is to do 1.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever I don't know that Vince or Debilyn have been vetted, but I think they have. And I'm going to make a note right now. I meant to write to Linda about this before now, because I don't know if they were already vetted. And if they've already been vetted, they could actually, we could come back to the next meeting and seat them if that's happened. If it hasn't, they have to go through the background check and all of that.
Okay, so in 2 weeks, let's try to have our candidates identified and vetted. And identifying means not only that we want them, but that they want us. And then, should we set a goal to have them brought on in 2 weeks?
I don't think that should be too difficult to make a telephone call and ask, are you willing to serve on the board? Yes, no. Then if they're vetted already, bring them on in.
Right. I just have to first make the call to Linda Park and say, are they, at least with regard to Debilyn and Vince, are they or are they not vetted?
Who was the third person again?
Say it again.
Who was the third person?
Well, that's the thing. We have to go through the process of deciding who else we want to bring on. So let's get this on big marker, and we'll have all the candidates that have been brought up listed in one thread, and we'll go through it during the next several days. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you have Vince, Debilyn. We've talked to some of the Big Apple Coffee Party. We've talked to Owensboro, Kentucky Coffee Party. There's a few different names that have been thrown about. I'll make sure they're all there, and then let's try to get a consensus on our top 3 in the next few days. Okay. Next on the agenda is development. Cameron.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun to discuss while my throat is a little bit crazy. But last week, the Viridian call was skipped due to me being down in Florida. So I'm looking forward, just to give everybody a heads up as to who Michael Schultenover is. He was a marketing guy for the Olympics in London. So he's a real big deal over at Viridian, and he's going to start working with us about putting together the strategic plan so that we can work on the business plan. So I'm really excited for this. So I look forward to getting back to you guys about what we're doing there. We've already discussed the influx of money, so you guys already know this. Tony Robbins changed my life. Enough said. Something that was discussed on Eric's civility and transpartisanship Coffee Party social media guidelines that I wanted to bring up. I didn't see it in the agenda, so I just put it there. Coffee Party opinion blog. And I wanted to get everybody's kind of opinion on this, opinion on the opinion blog. but it's basically if we allow people to vet out their non-transpartisan stuff on our site, it'll bring more traffic. It won't be the forefront of what we're doing, and it'll give people the ability to comment from a transpartisan perspective on maybe a blog post that was very partisan. So it gives people a chance to be civil and to keep each other accountable. So I want to see if anybody had a thought about that before I get into the nitty-gritty.
I do have a thought about that specifically, and it's something that I think I specified in the document. I think you're exactly right when you say you want to bring as many people into your sphere, so that then you can compartmentalize. You can move that forward and either work with modify folks' behavior. I mean, the last thing I think we want to do as Coffee Party is simply be preaching to the choir, and that is we are the bastion of civility. We only speak to civility. It's the same as being in any other clique if you're not engaging others. I think some of the stuff that I discussed with earlier with regards to with the use of another group in concert with our page would actually alleviate that problem altogether and should leave us open to say, let's engage as many people as possible. And that's how I will respond to you, Cameron.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Great thoughts. Anybody else have something to say?
Jeanene and I agreed to agree with it. It seems like this is something that's already underway with Egberto going to help Justin. Basically, the problem with our website right now is the blog is the front. The blog is basically the front page, and that means that whatever the last blog is the first thing someone new sees, and we don't want that anymore. So Egberto's going to be creating a new front page for the website, and then the blog will be something that it's either going to be on coffeepartyusa.com or it's going to be some blogspot type something. Egberto's figuring out what's best for search engine optimization. But in any case, let's make this a new feature. And then it really is something we should have thought about a long time ago, because there are a lot of people who are dying to say something and they want to be heard. We have this problem where, we can only absorb so much partisanship and incivility before we become just like everybody else that we try, that we're trying to contribute to making things better, not worse. So if we create this separate opinion blog, then it's something where people can be speaking for themselves, and we make it clear at the top that they're speaking for themselves. And then when stuff that is civil and is transpartisan emerges there, it gets onto the main website's blog, and then it's the kind of stuff that we could share on the Facebook page. So I think it's a great way to basically open the door to new people. So good idea.
No, I'm 1,001% with you. It's an organic way to also keep a check on what is civil and what isn't. And, because we have a moving middle, right? If we have a moving middle, what is civil changes over the course of time in politics. So I tend to think of it this way. If we can change organically with the times, it's going to make our lives a heck of a lot easier from the perspective of board and not having to manage and mitigate all of the issues that come up with the fact that we are transpartisan. Forgive me, my throat and my head are aerobic today, so I'm still nursing a headache and a runny nose. So there's one thing I skipped, and I think Jeanene had caught it earlier, or Eric finally did. A newsletter with a clear agenda and a clear ask for this agenda is essential and would like to discuss. Basically, since we've had an influx of people, we know that this has been an annual push, because that's basically when we opened up the floodgates to do the fundraising, was in February of 2013. And that's why we had a lot of people who donated at that time. I think we need to start pushing this monthly, because here's the thing. If we push it monthly, we have momentum. If we have momentum, we can then turn around and after a year's worth of pushing, we can sort of relax a little bit. Because if every month there's new people coming into the fold, and every year that renews, we're in a better place. So I would like to make each month, and we really need to plan this out, a monthly push based upon a specific theme. So I need to really kind of work with the content people, specifically Eric and Egberto and Jeanene and everybody who does a radio show or does a blog, that we come up with a transpartisan theme that we can write about, send out a newsletter about, and have a clear ask for an action-oriented item so that we can put it out there. Because if we do 12 of these, we'll be good for at least the foreseeable future in terms of having a baseline donation quorum. And I think that's a very important part to us doing our fundraising. So I open the floor up for anybody who has a comment or thought about that.
Egberto Stack?
All right, go ahead, Egberto.
Yeah, I think that is great. I even think that I would say 12 at the minimum, as you suggested. I would actually go for more, but of course maybe we have to start out on a monthly because we don't have much to offer or much to say right now. The expectation is if we can not if, let's stop and saying if. When we get a platform up that encourage more interactivity, when the social media brings on a hell of a lot of voices that get some real dialogue in going, get a lot of dialogue in going, a lot of activity going, I think eventually we can actually, to put it in business terms, monetize what we have there, not only through posts, but through comments that kind of direct people. Social media people tell you how you can use directed comments within, even within one blog post, you can have several directed messages that kind of lead some of the folks in an active blogs. I think that's a good idea. Now, I think we did an experiment at Move to Amend last week, and it proved what I thought would have happened, and it proved it was a real good failure. And the failure occurred that we sent an email out. Whenever we send emails out, we send emails with one bleed spot, and that one bleed spot first take the person to an ask, and after the ask, they may be directed elsewhere. We sent an email out with an ask and several bleeds, meaning to different actions and so forth. It cut the give by over 75%. Just by that one action. So I think we have to look into designing our asks in a manner that don't bleed, even if we want to get more information out that we can't put directly in the email, that it goes to the ask first, and after the ask is completed, then, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the way Nation Builders ask work is after the ask is fulfilled, you can direct them to a particular page. So we can use that feature to promote other ideas. But there's a lot of ways that, I think we've just bled out from what could have actually, brought in quite a bit more. So I love the idea, Cameron, as far as monthly. I think in the long run we can do it better than monthly.
So I think we can do it twice a month, but the first start is always, or we could do it once a week for that matter. But I think that the first beginning of what we're doing, especially considering our fundraising needs, have shown that on February and next month we'll have, or March, we're going to have like a 50% cut in that based upon history. That we're in a position that we have to push this on a monthly basis for a full year, so that we have giving in every single month. That way we can sort of depend upon it as it goes through. We'll have people come in, we'll have people go out, but at least we'll have a base, which is exactly what we need. All right. So, anybody else has a comment about this?
Yeah, I have my hand up about membership. I cannot stress enough how important a newsletter is, or these other things. I mean, we've always known this. They've only fallen by the wayside because we don't have people doing them. And so I would be so thrilled if we could get 12 out in a year. It's not even funny. So no matter how it should be, we got to get real here that we need a director that's going to ramrod, membership newsletters, that kind of stuff. And to say that fundraising and membership are the same is a big mistake. They're hugely different. I mean, they're both a full-time job, you guys. And so I'm thrilled to hear everybody coming to this realization. So when we appoint board folks, we need to keep this in mind if you're looking for a skill set, And it's, frankly, my biggest reason for wanting to keep Debbie Lynn close is she's the only one that knows how to do all this stuff. already. And but it's not. I don't intend to say this to lobby for. What I'm saying is, I think plans are great, but I think we need to be very pragmatic in our implementation. And so, if we could get, obviously, a newsletter now would be brilliant. If we could get one within another month, that would be brilliant. But it has to always balance out against the assets available and who can do how much. That's all. So I'm happy for the progress, and I am scared that we bite off one that we can chew. That's all.
All right.
I again waiting on the direction and to go forward, and we'll be ready to go forward.
Yep.
Forgive me for that. All right. So there's another hand I hear, maybe. There's a 3 to agree from Jeanene. Okay. So, yeah, thank you, Eric, for putting all of this in here. That's appreciated. And I'm happy that the newsroom can be able to take this on. That I would really, really love to see that happen. Considering it'll be a good driver for people who are within the newsroom. Are we planning on opening up the newsroom to? Do we want to get it large, or are we closing it down? This is a question you, Eric. We're closing the group.
It's growing, but it's been boring for the outset because we've been spending so much time on guidelines and rules. But when it actually becomes fun again, I think it's going to grow faster. And the people who cared enough to help us basically create the founding document or whatever, those people I think are really in it for the long haul, and I think they're the type of people who would get asked to be like the editor of the newsletter or that type of thing.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's going to be probably people who bring content for the Blog Talk Radio, for the newsletters and that kind of stuff. And even probably for content on the main page. But what my concern is. It's a matter of the themes. So, for instance, I'm thinking April is going to be an environmental month because what do we have? Earth Day. It makes Memorial Day, so we honor those who have died in past wars. July 4th. There's lots of different things we can really use the newsletter for. So. We can make it interesting too. But yeah, let's. I guess newsroom. If newsroom's going to take this on, is that going to be an action item for newsroom?
To get the newsletter going, yeah, I'll bring that up tomorrow. We have a call tomorrow night.
All right, I'll set up. I'll try and theme out the calendars as according to Jeanene is writing my thoughts in as we speak. So I'll make sure to kind of theme this out for 12 ideas. All right, so now that that's set and done, one thing I want to stress here is that we are the organization that is about transpartisanship. Is there any other?
Yes.
Okay, which other?
But they're small. They're small by comparison, but yes.
So one thing I've learned over this past weekend was the power and benefit of educational marketing. Since this is our thing, it is for us to brand. And if it's for us to brand, we need to brand it properly and that we are the experts on it. So I think that in many ways, we should be educating people on how to have conversations with people, how to write different blog posts, how to do these things, get them engaged that way. It's going to give us a platform from which to market from. At least from my perspective, it gives me an easier way of trying to say, hey, look, we're providing a service to our people in getting this content civilized. Can you give me a good? Do you mind giving us a few bucks to keep this educational benefit going? And it's just another side to this. Because I've had to start thinking outside of the Viridian. I know all of that's going to come starting in March, but I want to make sure that we have a well-rounded strategy. So, events fundraising. We need to thank you. Somebody's already writing all this down. So fundraising based upon events, this came about after watching Don't Do Coke. Honestly, I started thinking about it, and it was like, well, we have holidays every year, and we can start figuring out how we can set up events for those holidays, but also how we can fundraise on those holidays. You know, tax day, Earth Day, exactly. So let's have a discussion about that. If anybody wants to put anything in the docket here, please do. Outside of Jeanene and Eric.
Shut up.
So you guys are like getting into my brain here. This is ridiculous. All right, so on the Viridian side of this, I have the execution date being March 15th or later. I have logistical needs for it. Being able to provide media, I can get enough from the marketing department at Viridian, but I need coffee party media that everybody here is okay with us using. How do we want to finish off? Well, the marketing is going to be Chris Schulten over. I might need some web support. That'll be Justin, Egberto, myself. So I can kind of work on that angle with you guys. But for the long term, we need to have a good strategic plan. That's coming up after March 15th. And a process in understanding, I need to have a process in understanding the fundraising metrics that I've got. I started looking at that after this whole giving season. But Jeanene, are we fixed in any way, shape, or form on the back end with the financial numbers? Because those are overly inflated based upon previous inputs into the system that were not real. Am I incorrect on that?
I'm not. Okay, so let me just give you some facts. We use QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
We put very real numbers in there. My problem with it, and I have an accountant volunteer who's willing to help me with this now. Actually, I'm going to correct myself. As soon as tax season is over, who will simplify the ledger, because we were given a very convoluted ledger because I guess we were. People who made decision at the time. It's not a useful ledger now, and so we have to compact down to major categories, no subcategories. I don't want to bore with accounting talk, but let me suffice it to say this. If you ask me a question, I can answer it. We have merged all the data from all the bank accounts that Coffee Party ever had, and that's quite a few. And we have things are at least in the correct general category, if not in the correct subcategory. So I can provide financials to you, quarterly, annual, monthly. We can do profit loss, balance sheet, everything that we could possibly need to do. So if you need numbers, need numbers, I have them, and if you need projections, I can create them.
I need a retained earnings statement if we can finally get one going here.
Retained earnings? You could give me a fucking break. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Oh, no. You see, now that's recorded in forever.
I'm looking forward to being able to provide a retained earnings statement.
Yeah, so am I. I'll feel a lot better once we're there. So ultimately here, right, so my biggest concern was the back end of Nation Builder showing 400,000. I can't do queries against it because that's not right. So I mean, I can look at the last year, but I think even those numbers are inflated. That's what my concern was.
Oh, right. I mean, I can tell you right now, if you go to the Facebook, and if you go to the tab that's called, what's this one called?
Birthdays?
No, it's just it's the monthly sales report. If you go to the monthly sales report tab, you'll see that in not counting checks received in the mail, which is going to be just a few $100s, right, per year.
Right.
We made $34,228 in calendar year 2013. So I can also when I looked at this report today, I thought I should break this into quarters so that you could do fiscal year when you wanted and and calendar year when you want it. You know what I'm saying? But so $34,000 is what we made last year in the calendar year, and we've already made 25% of that in this 2 months. You know, so but then also if you look back, February was our giant month last year as well.
Yeah, it was. So was January.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I've stacked them up like this, is so that anybody who wanted to could look at last year, could look at this year. I can try to go back farther in PayPal if you want to see what 2012 looked like. It'll just take me an hour probably. So I'll do that before the next meeting. And so I can certainly tell you what we're making and how we're spending it. And if we're going to go for, you know, angel capital or something, we would have the numbers they would require. What you know what we don't have though, you guys? What we don't have, you guys, is an assessment of the time spent. In other words, there's a lot of goodwill here. Our single greatest asset is called goodwill. And so I spend 30 hours minimum a week. And part of what we have to put into a goodwill statement is how many hours per week, even just the board spends, because we're not compensated. And then how much time other volunteers also spend. And our asset in terms of donated time is much greater than our cash asset.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I know that the time I spend on what I have to do isn't negligible. But I don't think anybody is here.
No.
So, yeah, I agree with you on there. I really think that we need to account for it at least. Well, if this was a corporation, we'd have to account for it for taxes. But no. All right, so at least I understand. Once this is done, I'd love to see how this can get fixed in Nation Builder, but we'll see. All right, so planning, we should have 30, 60, 90-day goals. I tend to look at this. Thank you for showing me the monthly sales report, because I know that in June, we're going to have to do a bunch of fundraising. We're going to have to do a bunch of fundraising in April if we want to get our numbers up.
Roger that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think Earth Day is good. Now, let's take this one to Big Marker, but I really think Earth Day would be a big one. And so we'll talk about that another time, or on Big Marker.
Okay. Yeah, Egberto, you have a 1. You're on mute. Hello, Egberto.
Yeah, what I wanted to tell you, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that for all these things that we're talking about, we're now talking about some real fundraising for real. We have to have an action attached to it, you know, give the people a reason to want to give. So, I mean, as we speak about this, you know, I have a couple of ideas on things. I like the way Jeanene said, jump on an action to do with the climate change. But I also think we have to use today's politics as an action. Like you remember, I said in the document, I was talking about every week as possible for an action, just so that there are actions that go out without a hard ask, and then people feel a note that we're actually doing something, and they later on, when the real hard ask come, they're given to somebody that know that that they're actively doing something. That's what we've noticed actually worked. In other words, the soft asks always go out every week. Every week we send something out with the soft ask, but the hard ask, because we have activities like Jeanene just spoke about, one thing that we could do is the climate, but there's some other things as well I think we can do with the election itself. Thanks.
No, that works. I can probably get coffee parties set up to, you know, get up and running in April, that we can promote certain like Viridian field days. And it doesn't actually have to be part of the Viridian field day. It can be just that they're going out, because Viridian goes out and does like local things as well. So, Dan, that's a 1. You're on mute.
Is that all, Cameron? Talking to
No.
Talking to you, buddy. My bad.
No.
I don't know if this is the right place to interject this, but we have just been recontacted by Josh Silver.
That's great.
I saw that. Yeah. Let's set up a call, Dan.
Absolutely.
We've been helping them out a lot. Just even without them having their act together, we've been letting people know about.
Oh, that's what I told him. I'm already replied to his email and said I can't. There's countless number of people I'm sure that we pushed over to you to sign as citizen sponsors, and it's a pity that we can't track those. But let's figure out a way to do that.
Okay.
Sorry. The rest of everything is basic. Like, I'm not going to say human resources because that's got a bad taste in my mouth now. But it's volunteer management, team building, team rules, human needs. I mean, basically, it's resources. We need to have some kind of volunteer structure on the development side of this. It's not simple currently for me to just start airing people out. I'm in the middle. I don't know if you guys know what the hell I've been up to, but literally I've gotten $3 million, I think is what we've got coming in, setting up for one of our plants down in Mexico. So I've been spending a lot of time getting that worked out with my partners. And in April, we're sitting down with a bank to get stuff worked out for $93 million for my company. So it's looking like things are gonna start getting real heavy real quick. So the benefit of that is, well, I bleed coffee parties, so at least on some level, I'll be able to get some debts paid off here. But in reference to it, getting us out there for us to be able to do some good works, I want to make sure that that we finally have an organizational structure with a way to physically onboard people, so that that there's this standing legacy that we as a board leave in the next year, so that there's a plan of action. I mean, I'm sure that move to amend and many of the other ones have an actual physical structure of how people come in and what they do and how they do it. So that being said, the only other thing I need to get is an action-oriented item for an ability to sell Zazzle products, Cafe Press products, and Viridian Logistics. And with that, I'm pretty much done unless anybody has any questions. Yes, Jeanene. There's an opening salvo.
Okay, there's no questions, but I guess that on the 15th we'll be hammering out the final details of the Viridian plan.
Well, that's when Mr. Schultenover gets back and is able to work with us on a strategic plan. I would venture to say it'll take him like 7 days. So by the end of March, we'll know what the hell we're doing.
Okay. All right. So we still have more work to do on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the messaging and branding, we're ready to move on. Everybody, checking for hands. Oh wait, Jeanene, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that where we are right now with Viridian in terms of what this group needs to pay attention to is that we now need to create our sort of template language that we'll use in whether it's an email blast or a post or however we're going to communicate with the membership about Viridian and the Coffee Party Viridian relationship. And so this will be like it's like a keynote or a linchpin kind of conversation. And so what we have to do right now is draft that position, like who we are with relation to Viridian, who Viridian is with relation to green energy, whatever. And so, Eric, you and, frankly, the entire board should review the doc that Cameron is going to produce for you, that I'm going to work with him for sure. But basically, once we get that language together, we send it to Viridian Legal. And Viridian Legal will review it and make sure we have not missed the mark. And then it'll come back to us with edits or agreements. And so because it'll be We only have to go to them once if we've grasped the conversation, if we've really conceptualized how we want to speak about this and how we feel about this. Then we'll forever forward be informed by that first email blast or whatever language we give them. So this one particular thing that's going to go to Viridian for our legal review is key. And once we have that, we can launch. We cannot launch without it. So that's actually where we are right now. It's in the start with the drafting those words. And then in order to draft those words, we have to know what happens when they click on a link. What link on Nation Builder does it fall on? From Nation Builder, what link within Viridian does it fall on? And so it's actually kind of down to that level of logistics. But as you know, Eric, being a person who communicates wisdom through images and words, it's very important how we choose our words at this moment in time. I'm out with that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeanene, for remembering that.
Yeah, let's spend a few more minutes on Viridian then. So I definitely am going to be working with you guys on the word choices. And I, as you know from early on, I think that there are a lot of great overlapping segues that can explain this pretty well to our members. And then, more recently that I've been more of a mind to present this more as an arrangement that's more like we're advertising Viridian because we believe in what they're doing, as opposed to this is a Coffee Party campaign. That it's an action. So anyway, we'll be working on that, and then I just want to say this. I think the other step is that everyone on the board needs to understand what the financial arrangement is, and I know, Cameron, you've already acknowledged that there is the potential for conflict of interest with you and your dad being involved in that way. But as we've also said that there is a way to have a financial interest without it being a conflict of interest. And so when the board makes that judgment, we'll have to better understand exactly how all this works. And I know it's super complicated, and it may also be my fault for not being able to understand it. But I know I don't currently understand it right now, so another step will be to try to explain it to me and probably to the rest of you. And then it may be a situation where there's some tweaking or negotiation, similar to when I ask if we can send out an email blast for Annabelle, and the board says, well, that's great for Annabelle, but what's in it for Coffee Party? And then we end up with, in exchange, Annabelle writes an email blast for fundraising for Coffee Party, that sort of thing. So I have no idea where that's going, and I hope it wasn't awkward for me to say it, but I think it's kind of our responsibility to approach it that way.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if I can interject, this is key. This is key. If we can write a letter, an email to ourselves that engages us, then we've written the right email. And so exactly, Eric, we need to have this so clear to you and me and Dan and Egberto and Cameron that if anyone were to question this, we'd be very clear. And so that's the definitive communication that we're trying to design right now, so that when it goes to Viridian, if they give it the green flag, then we're golden, because we always use the concepts, the phraseology, the linguistics of that particular communication when we communicate about this. And so you won't sign off on this until you're enrolled. So my job is to enroll you. And the only thing that will really fly will be the truth about it, right? So I promise you that's what you'll get.
I like this idea. If what our ultimate intention here is to get our membership to agree to this, then we have to be able to explain it to ourselves the best possible way that we can. I love the idea.
Brilliant.
Okay, so before the end of the month, then we'll figure out a way to explain it to ourselves. Just a simple thing like somewhere money's exchanging hands, and there's $3 here, and then it trickles down to $3 there, and is some of that money paid to Cameron and his dad as in exchange for the work that they have to do to facilitate all of this and to coach people? What's the percentage? What goes to Coffee Party? What goes to them? Like, those are the kind of things that we probably need to figure out and know and all that stuff.
I want to clarify this. Can I clarify that currently? I have a one-up. Yes, I can. If everybody is okay with me doing this. So it doesn't work the way that you're thinking it does. It's not that there's a percentage that goes to Coffee Party and then a percentage of what Coffee Party would get trickles down to my father or to me. We get credit for the amount of people that are within our lines. That's basically it. The only thing that my father would get would be a mentorship up-team bonus if he was at specific ranks within Viridian, which means he has to have other lines that reach specific ranks. So the benefit completely is for Coffee Party. Up until there's really Coffee Party gets as much as gets brought into Coffee Party. Okay, that's basically the way it works. My father would only see a benefit if he had other legs that were running along those same lines. So, and the same is true for me. I have to be at a specific rank, and even then, I can only take 60% of whatever this leg is. So it's something I think you just have to be shown from the perspective of the actual breakout of the compensation plan, so that you understand that I understand why you think that there's a conflict of interest or possible conflict of interest here. But in reality, everybody gets paid for the work and volume that they bring in. It's just the way that network marketing works, because they can't allow for a Ponzi scheme to happen where the guy at the top makes more money than the guy at the bottom. It doesn't work that way in network marketing.
Okay. So maybe we can have some sort of visuals that, well, let's see. Okay, cool. So that's just our task for the month. We don't have to do it on this call. And
nope.
I'm sorry, I'm not very good at understanding.
It's all right.
Okay.
Network marketing is easy.
Let me check real quick.
No, it was just mine. I'll put mine down.
Oh, that's you, Cameron. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the newsroom team has spent its first 4 weeks after being reconfigured or restarted, working on basic terms that they want to agree to hold each other responsible to. And it's something that we probably should have done a long time ago, because it can get messy if there's just sort of a tacit understanding of what our guidelines are. And we don't want to have it become something where there's so much ambiguity that that we end up being really vulnerable to things happening that end up hurting our brand, and creating extra work for us, and all that sort of thing. And so the idea of bringing in new people is something that really had to be put on the back burner until it seemed like we could at least take the steps necessary to clarify that. Because you can imagine the headache it would be if we had 8 or 10 people trying to make the rules for themselves, and then arguing with each other about it every Wednesday night after they already have access to our social media platforms. So these are rules and guidelines that the contributors, especially, there's 4 or 5 people who've been on every call, and then there's probably 10 or so people who've been on some of the calls. These are the things that they would like to adhere them to themselves and hold each other accountable to, and they would like from the board of directors an endorsement of these guidelines, and it's something that I feel like we ought to afford them out of respect for the hard work that they've done, but also so that they understand that they have some guidelines that they're responsible for before we give them access to our networks. So I move that we endorse these rules. They will be things that we can make amendments to. There are all kinds of things that are unforeseen. So it's not something that's set in stone forever. But I move that we endorse these guidelines, and then tomorrow I'm going to start training people and onboarding them so they can help us with our social media platforms.
I can't agree to the rules as is.
Okay.
So we have a motion. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I mean, after the second comes discussion. Okay, if there's no second, you guys, we need to discuss.
Oh, no. I didn't understand. What is the motion exactly?
Okay.
Sorry. I was muted.
Repeat, Eric. Repeat.
The motion is that we endorse the guidelines that the newsroom would like to establish before they embark on, for the first time in a long time, infusing our top of the radio platform pantheon with new voices.
Okay, so the motion is to have an endorsement of. Well, the only reason I'm not saying anything is because I haven't read the whole dang thing. I need to read a bit of this before I can say whether or not I endorse it.
Okay, well
or is this just is this a motion to have a discussion about it?
Sure. You can second it for the purpose of discussion, and then we can use the discussion to go through it point by point. It's really not that long.
All right. I have no issue seconding it. Let's have a discussion about this.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So you guys, it's groovy to say I second for the purpose of discussion. That's actually legitimate. That's that's trying to let people know you don't know what you think about it yet, but you're willing to discuss it.
That's what I thought I said. Yes. Sorry?
Yeah. What Jeanene said.
All right. Yeah, and second for purpose of discussion. So in the agenda is a link to a document.
I just did this. Okay, never mind. Continue. Sorry to interrupt. I thought I did that, but obviously I'm wrong. Continue, please.
You did what?
Yeah.
I'm just delirious. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'm just going to read through the document really quickly, and then you guys can hit numbers. Jeanene, let me know if numbers appear.
Okay.
These are
I'll move to that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a one
for
from Eric and a one from Egberto. So Eric, you speak, and Egberto follows.
Oh, mine was a mistake. I didn't even do it. Go ahead, Egberto.
Yeah, what exactly are we doing?
Okay, so what we have, Egberto, is this is a document that Eric has moved that we accept by vote. And
Okay.
Dan said that he seconded for the purpose of discussion, which is a way of saying he doesn't know what he thinks yet, but he wants to talk about it. So you have the first hand up. Go for it.
Okay, so it was seconds of open for discussion now.
Yes, open for discussion now.
Well, the one thing that I place the things that concern me in a document that I think doesn't need to be there that are, and I made the arguments about that in several calls, and I think it went ignored. There's a lot of good in the document, minus some of the social media input, specifically the ones with the personalized blogs. I think enough thought definitely didn't go into it, realizing the social media, not the social media, but the ranking Google links and the rationale for bringing in external blogs. Number two, I think what wasn't taken into account is the document that I wrote where we spoke about that alternative blog site where things can be more civil by leaving the main page more open, but the other areas more civil. The other thing is they arbitrarily, I don't want any, and I don't think there should be any arbitrary limits as to who and whence one can post from. I think that is an artificial limit based on an artificial concept. So I will not vote for moving those particular items forward. Subsequently, the rest of the document, I think it's okay, but those two I definitely cannot go along with.
Okay, so in order to familiarize who hasn't had time to really look at it, let's just go through point by point. To me, this is sort of a bottleneck for everything else that we want to do, including fundraising, including campaigns and actions. We need to, basically we need to practice what we preach, and we need our key volunteers. I mean, these are the people who I expect are going to be with us on the board of directors before too long. We need to show them that the sense of a common goal and a common commitment to principles and to the founding ideals of the Coffee Party are going to be able to supersede personal goals and agendas. And really, for any team, that's something that needs to be established. So let's just actually, Jeanene, can you read the first couple, and then I'll come in and do the next couple?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
so the title of the doc is Guidelines for Coffee Party Social Media Posting in Order to Align Public Face with Mission Statement and Core Values. The first header is appropriate uses of the Facebook page include vetted articles, images, or videos that help the reader connect the dots between money and political outcomes. Campaigns and actions by Coffee Party or other organizations consistent with Coffee Party mission and values. Content that leads to Coffee Party web pages such as Coffee Party News on Scoop It, Coffee Party Radio, or coffeepartyusa.com. The places where we rely on ourselves to create content. So that's sort of the first paragraph. Do we have comments on the first paragraph? I'm going to switch back to where I can see hands up. Now I want to point to the back. Go ahead.
I'd let you know when you're reading, I'll watch, and when I'm reading, you can watch. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much. So I do want to point to that this was totally redrafted in the last 24 hours because it was what you shouldn't do, and now it is here's what we want you to do. So my personal thing about this the paragraph titled Appropriate Uses of the Facebook page would be, can you think of anything else that would be an appropriate use? And obviously one of them might be, and I'll type it in as I tell you, Viridian and other fundraising mentions. You know, what we know from history is that Facebook is not the strong place to promote any kind of Coffee Party fundraising activity, but it's worthy of a mention. And part of the Viridian plan right now is to actually have a hot button on that Facebook page that would connect to the Viridian opportunity, meaning the opportunity to change your electrical provider, your gas provider, to have a solar assessment, whatever. And so I spelled Viridian wrong, but so I guess I want to start by the title is Guidelines for Coffee Party Social Media Posting, and this should in theory apply to all of our pages. So we're assigned Join the Coffee Party Movement, We Want Elizabeth Warren, various groups within Facebook like Coffee Party National Organizer Group, Team, and others. So this isn't just for our main page, but I do believe it's for us as a presenter in social media. And let's see. Any more comments on this particular section or questions? I'm
glad you added that, Jeanene. And just to clarify, I think we can apply it to some of the things that you mentioned that we really honestly aren't much in control over. But what this is really for is for people who are being initiated onto the team to have a sense of basically what they're supposed to be doing. And rather than asking them to just kind of look at what we do and copy us, it's just to give them something in writing that the people that meet in the newsroom every day, the people who are newly going to be representing us by the things that they post. And if we want to, I think we can then show this to people who are doing stuff on some of those pages that you mentioned that really haven't been part of the newsroom. Maybe we should try to bring them in. Okay, go ahead.
Any other comments on this paragraph or questions? I'm going to move to the second paragraph. Guidelines agreed to by newsroom volunteers for how to gauge the effectiveness of leading by example in keeping our stated values with our responsibility to our members and to the American public. 1, civility and transpartisanship. On the 3 main coffee party issues, we can find lots of agreement across the political spectrum. Posts that focus on these issues help to facilitate the kind of transpartisan bridge building America needs to make progress on these issues. And then our 3 core issues are listed: campaign finance reform, tax code reform, Wall Street reform. As long as Americans can see these issues as partisan issues, it is very easy for the powers that be to set us against each other while they continue business as usual. Let's do our part to diffuse the hyper-partisanship that plagues American politics. Let's not add to it. Then the Coffee Party mission statement and core values are added, that we adhere to them with consistency and with appreciation for the richness of collaboration. Contributors to Coffee Party's messaging should help each other keep the Coffee Party agenda in mind, not personal agenda.
Okay, and Jeanene, Cameron has a hand up.
Cameron.
Yeah, it was from before in reference to fundraising mentions, but I think everything's fine. I was just concerned about to include any and all external fundraising efforts that we may have, not just ones that are on our webpage, but continue.
What does external fundraising mean?
I'm sorry?
What does external fundraising mean?
In other words, if we're doing events and we want to be able to promote them.
Oh.
Not just like, I'm not necessarily sure that's up there.
Okay.
Well, what it should really say is that Coffee Party fundraising is appropriate, and that implicitly anything that isn't a Coffee Party initiative would have to have a special,
discussion anyway. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Well, you got, with regard to this, the one big concern I've had, and this is directed to the tech team, but okay, so the Lawrence Lessig was leading a troop of folks marching through the snow in New Hampshire, right? And one of the calls from route strikers was, hey, these guys need gloves, these guys need boots, they need socks, and so can you contribute to that? And so I posted that call for funds. And what we were lacking at that moment, that I believe we will not lack for much longer, is I didn't have a way to hopscotch them to Nation Builder and then to route strikers. So $5,000 were raised during that day. After I checked the amount of money they'd raised the minute before I posted, and then the money they'd raised at the end of the day, and it was up $5,000. And I could tell that the Wolfpack fundraiser had been a few days before, and somebody else had been after. But because we didn't hopscotch off of Nation Builder, we don't know how many people we sent to the Root Strikers site, right? And so my hope is in the future that when we do fundraising, in a sense, for other groups, and we'll do it for Move to Amend, we'll do it for other groups, I know, that we find a way to at least make a footprint so we know how many people we sent along to them.
Yeah, very well said.
Well, We could create a special page that raises money for them and just send that money to them. It goes
right.
into
We
our
just need it. Exactly. Or just make the template that says bang, bang, and because all they have to do is touch us. They don't actually have to give the money through us. All they have to do is touch down in Nation Builder and then be skipped out. But that's not the purpose of this document. It's a part of the challenge of the task, the tech team right now, to figure out how to make that easy and elegant. But I guess if we're talking about fundraiser and appropriate use of our social media, then of course we would mention that we're actually going to raise money for other groups. We've raised money for Story of America, but you probably don't know how much came from us because we didn't touch down on Nation Builder before we went there, right? So, but I do think it's a legitimate use of our social media because, if we paste on Join the Coffee Party movement, we also Twitter. If we post and scoop it, we also Twitter. So I mean, we have multiple multiple access to touch points.
Well, what would be wrong with just creating a tool on Nation Builder for our own site, and it's money that's raised specifically for that purpose, and then we send a check to Florence Lessig or Story of America or whatever it is?
Well, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm not sure it's germane, but in general, as a concept for the board to embrace, I think we should discuss that.
Okay.
And maybe we could do that on Big Marker, or maybe we could do it another meeting. But you're right, whether we actually directly collect the money and send it to them, or whether we, because that would be easy to do, I promise you, it's easy to do. Then it would just be a matter of deciding which route we're going to go. I think the main issue is to be able to give ourselves credit for the touch.
Okay. Well, we'll take it up when we next have a situation where one of us, and it could be, Dan Aronson hits 3 to agree, Egberto has a hand up, when one of us wants to recommend that we fundraise for a sister organization, we'll decide exactly how we're going to do it in the approval process. Egberto, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. If we're fundraising for someone, I'd rather not do the check thing. I think we should. We can actually get metrics from our own system. We just need to prepare for that in the future.
Okay. So we'll discuss it when we get to the next time, and we'll experiment with the good system and see how it goes. Okay. Back to you, Jeanene.
Okay, so there's a couple more points on this one paragraph. One is called, presenting language in relation to Coffee Party goals. When posting to Facebook, Twitter, or Scoop It is advisable but not required to change the headline of an article so that it is not overtly partisan or uncivil. No one is required to do this. If a strong piece of web content has an objectionable title, admins can choose to change the title or to find a different piece of content to post. I think the comment I made on this one was I said, you can do it with the lead. Like I would probably never post an article that says, those goddamn Republicans have done it again. I probably wouldn't because chances are the content wouldn't be stellar. But if I found an article with stellar content that had an objectionable title, my lead into the post would not use the language of the title. And then, of course, on Scoop It, I can give it any title I want. Again, when they go through Scoop It and click on the article, the title is intact, but my interpretation of the title would be what led them to go. Any questions about that particular paragraph?
Mm-mm.
No question, no hands.
Use of labels is the next one. It is impossible to talk about politics without using labels such as Republican and Democrat, but it is possible to avoid using those labels as pejorative, intended to insult or dismiss an entire group of people. Just as it is unfair to generalize about immigrants of people or people of color, it is unfair to generalize about people with cultural or political identifications different from our own. Then there's a comment, I think it's from Dan, and it says, any noun in the English language can be used as a pejorative. Words are simply tools. Their use is what counts. Also, while I agree with the sentiment that no labels is a tough doctrine to accept, the rule I like to apply I call monikers only. You have no right to label me, only I have the right to label myself. This is a rule I'd like to see put in place. That's a Dan comment. Any comments or questions about that paragraph?
I think that the paragraph as is reflects our approach to labeling others, and then people who want to label themselves are certainly welcome to.
Right, and I genuinely guess that the intent here is, I subscribe to a ridiculous number of pages, and you get those fracking GOPers are at it again, and I would never use that title. Okay, variety of sources is the next paragraph. One of the advantages of having a team of admin curators is that we have a better chance of drawing from a variety of sources. Admins should take pride in finding strong content that is not from the elite news institutions. I don't know what that means. Admins should help us and our audience discover new voices by seeking out and sharing a variety of sources. And then Dan has another comment. Actually, I'm not reading other comments, but Dan's warning is non-1% media outlets can be more slanted than even the 1% media.
Yeah.
Mother Jones is to the left of CNN, although I often agree with them. That's my insert. Well, Red State is to the right of Fox News, and frankly, I often quote Red State. That's funny. I just don't want it to be put out there that smaller or less is an outlet bona fide. Dan.
Bona fide.
Yes. Questions or comments?
Yeah, that's a good point. We basically need to clarify that everything else in the document applies when you're looking for those less elite sources. And by elite, I just meant, I post Washington Post more than any other thing because I read the Washington Post every morning. And luckily I have other people who post from other sources, so it's not as obvious. But if you only look at 9 a.m., there's a lot of Washington Post. And so, one of the ones that we discovered and really helped into prominence was National Priorities Project, which does amazing stuff. Nobody ever heard of them, and we help make them, more. We help put them on the map. So that's the kind of stuff I hope we can do while also applying all of the other principles of civility and transpartisanship.
The National Priorities Project has been on my show a couple times. They're amazing. And so I do think it's important to have a variety of sources. And I do have a question for everybody, and that is, should we be afraid of radical sources on the left or the right?
Not if they're fact-based.
Right. I mean, to me, my challenge as a content creator is, can I vet what they say, right? And I mean, what's happening right now in Ukraine is an excellent example of how things can fly fast and furious, and you spend a lot of time vetting information if you want to post anything about it. Because I want to, and inquiring minds want to know. I do quote Mother Jones from time to time. I quote Red State from time to time. I've gone to far more right-based sources than Red State, to tell you the truth, but never anything I can't vet. And so I'm wondering, Eric, is there a place in here for, since this document is really intended to be a guideline to new content creators, does there need to be a piece or a paragraph about how one vets information?
Interesting.
Yeah, there probably should be some recommendations on vetting. I think they probably know what they should be vetting for, accuracy being number one. But what will really happen with these guidelines is, since they have them, and since we all have them and we have a common starting place, when we meet on Wednesday and somebody did put a red state or a Mother Jones on there, and not only did it create a firestorm, but there was something inaccurate on it, then we have a reason to talk about it, not just, I didn't like that, and therefore I don't like you, well, I don't like you either. Instead of having that, we're going to say, well, we agreed to these guidelines, and this needs to be something where we need to ask ourselves, does it fall into those guidelines? That's basically how it would function. It's not like there's going to be a buzzer, that goes off and somebody falls through the floor and gets jettisoned from the airplane or something like that, but more as a starting point for when we have the weekly conversations, which, people have been saying that, these conversations are really engaging conversations, and two of them have been on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm going to make them all part of Blog Talk Radio. Okay, we got two hands up. Dan, go, and then Egberto.
So I want to be very clear about the fact that fact-based is one of three pillars, and you can take the same facts that I can take, and we can spin them and make them a totally different animal. But if we say that the facts are the facts and they're the same facts, then that's not the be-all, end-all. Yes, you have to be fact-based. You can't say that, Grigol is the 13th planet from the sun and part of our solar system. Obviously that. But to me, it's about the way that facts are spun. And Jeanene has great rules for her show. And I'd like to see those be adapted and brought into this as well. Jeanene has certain rules. I'll let you tell us what they are, Jeanene. What you don't allow on your show.
My rules?
Yeah, like code words. Don't use
Oh
code
my gosh!
words.
Well, those are actually topics. Because earlier in the agenda we were talking about. What it is to educate, right? And so Cameron sort of pointed to educational marketing is really everything in the bottom line. And so Debilyn and I have this commitment to educating people. And so when we learn something, we figure we're probably not the first to need to learn something. And so the whole notion of code words, the whole notion of what is confirming thinking, what is it about humanity that makes us want to look for the evidence that confirms what we already believed and challenge the evidence of anything we didn't already believe, and what are the techniques for stepping outside of what you already believe to be true before you know anything, right? And so we sort of see our whole show as educational because we try to address these very bizarre points of what it is to be human. There it is. And because until we question ourselves, until we're self-examined human beings, we're really in no position to say or to claim that we are objective, right? Because actually no one's totally objective. And so if that's the rules that you're talking about, Dan, right, we do not accept shortcuts that underscore or reinforce canned ways of thought or focus panel kind of ways of thought or talking points ways of thought. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, those are good. And my one other comment is I can take facts, and by omitting other facts, I can create a case of where it's the use of the fallacy of special pleading, where I will call out somebody on the right for doing something, and I'll just happen to omit the fact that there's a bunch of people on the left that do it too.
Right.
There's a setup. One of my favorite classes in college was logic and reasoning, and there's a set of I think 20 some odd fallacies that we studied, and you see them used time and again in people's arguments, and go, it should be fact-based, but it also should be should be something in there that says it's got to be logical, and that's different than fact-based.
Right. I was on a court case one time. I was deposed for like 8 hours, and then later I was on the stand for 2 days. And I had been trained in logic and reasoning prior, but I'll tell you, if you want the PhD in logic and reasoning, understand what a legal interpretation of a question is. And so it's just made me immune almost to the notion that just because someone can walk you down the rabbit trail, right? I could walk you down the rabbit trail, but it's not necessarily a valid trail. And so, again, the commitment of our show is to teach people to be self-examined and self-questioning in such a way that we can, and then give them the tools to help them understand these things. And, there you have it. Thanks.
Real quickly, before I got Egberto and then Cameron, when Madison was trying to convince Virginia to ratify the Constitution, what he said is that this is not the destination, this is the beginning of the conversation. And so yes. I just want to point out is that this is not to settle every post and that's ever going to happen on the page. It's to give the team a framework with which to discuss things and basically moderate and modulate and influence each other so that there's basically a community that's interpreting these rules instead of having people interpret them for themselves and then fight about it if the interpretations are different. Okay, Egberto, you're next.
This actually was addressed what Jeanene talked about, bringing in radical websites. It was surprising to me that she included Mother Jones because I think Mother Jones is far from radical, but or Al Jazeera for that matter. But I mean, to address Dan, I think anybody who uses facts and cherry pick to make a narrative, while the facts may be true, the narrative is false. So I think that is that is the answer to that question. Facts used to create a false narrative and there are certain narratives that are gray, but most narratives are black and white. So I mean, like I said, some are gray, but most of them are black and white. And so that's about it. Now to address Eric, as far as these are not etched in stone, that I understand that, but there are some items in there that because it's not etched in stone, like I said at the end of the document, should be removed. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Cameron.
2 or more facts or 2 or more sources to back up the facts that are being quoted is something I would have as a standard. In fact, it'd be better to have 3. And that they're quoted in whatever pieces are being written. I think it'll go a long way to keeping us, what's the word for it, as hold on, there's stuff in the background. All right, it'll go a long way to keep us consistent, as well as people will trust our judgment more than they will other news sources. So with that's my 2 cents. I'm not in this side of it.
Okay. Jeanene, do you want me to take over the reading
Sure.
and switch?
Sure.
Okay. So number 2 is, this is something that we're all quite familiar with, but we needed to get it on paper for the newbies. There is room for people to be themselves and be active citizens at the same time. And so, those of us who have pet issues, like for me it's immigration and gay rights, Robert Rodrigo has posted like 8 things about legalizing marijuana to our stupid page. We just have to have a certain. I don't even know exactly how to do it, but basically, it takes a team of people to make individuals aware when something that is at the center of their universe and is it seems like common sense for them to push forward into the community because it's part of their everyday life. It's something they fight for every day. It may not be something that people, the rest of the community is familiar with or comfortable with talking about every day. So this is a little rough, but it's basically to give the team a starting point which says, look, you're not muzzled here. If you're a gay man or a lesbian woman and you want to talk about your rights, we want to hear. That would be fascinating. I would love to have a person representing that who actually is from that community. or whatever there is a person, by the way, who has come out to me who's in that on that team. But there has to be some limits because we don't want to have when Rodrigo comes on, I don't want him to understand that his post should be about legalizing marijuana every day. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys want to take a minute to read what it actually says and see if we can improve on it, but that's basically what it is. And all of these things we can amend as time goes on.
No hands?
Number 3, accentuate the positive. So I combined 2 things that were brought up in 2 different meetings here. And look for web content that features people or groups taking action. So, of course, that's going to be us soon, but, I think it's one of the best things you can say about Coffee Party is we're not one of those organizations that hopes the other ones fail. We actually hope the other ones that have, the same goals as we do succeed because we feel like we're part of a larger team. So that's basically to let people know that in addition to complaining that things are going wrong, we want to post stuff that lets people know who's taking action to get it going right again, or if they're ever going right. So that's basically that. Is there any? You can give you a moment to take a look at the actual wording. And
Egberto's raised his hand. And thank you.
Yeah. My only concern is, and I think I raised it before, and that is.
Egberto?
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that my thing about it, anytime I hear something like we have to put this in a positive light or something in that nature, it tells me that what we're trying to do is change the flavor. So I don't know if I really object to the object, or I want to say let's more than not be honest and not try to color code things or look at things through colored glasses, because I think the country is in the state that it is because too many of us, and specifically many of us on the left side of the aisle, have color-coded in a lot of ways and have allowed folks to suffer in the long run. But that's pretty much that's why I don't want to temper folks from wanting to really hit civilly, but hit where it needs to be hit, because we are in bad shape right now. And Eric, the things that you're going out there and doing in Alabama and South Carolina is great. It's great work. But until it is placed in the right narrative, that's all it is, a story. So I would like us to make sure and be honest. Thank you.
Jeanene?
I just put a comment in the doc that said, what if it were to say, accentuate the grassroots in action, as opposed to the positive? I mean, it's not all things are positive, right? I mean, a bunch of kids chained themselves to the gates of the White House this past weekend in the freezing cold. They were in sleet that was not unlike what we had at Enough is Enough. And, hundreds were arrested. And so I think it's important that even though that may not sound positive, that's definitely the grassroots in action. And to me, what I tried to promote about this activity was that it was youth in action. And so it was amazing to me. So there you go. I see you made the change. But I think that's important. You and I know what you mean by positive, but a new person coming in and looking to the guidelines might not. Thank you.
Right. Like Egberto said, we don't want them to read that and think that they're not supposed to post something that's outrageous and the public needs to know, but then they're like, oh, but that's such a downer. No, that's not what we were trying to say.
Right.
At least I don't think. It wasn't my suggestion, actually. But, Upworthy does a good job of posting stuff that gives people a little bit of an uplift, So even if a lot of these things are hard to do, and so when we put them in there that we want them in there, when we come to the Wednesday meeting, we can look at what we did collectively over the past week and say, you know what, we really didn't have a grassroots piece this month. or we really didn't have one that is, gives voice to a more conservative viewpoint this time, and we do go weeks without those. So these are just things that it's something we can use to evaluate ourselves each week. It doesn't mean that each individual post necessarily has to achieve all of these goals. Okay? All right. Any other hands? Let me see here. No. Okay. Comment moderation. I actually agree with Dan's last-minute change, and that is, I don't know what you think, Jeanene, but why should we monkey with the just hiding a post? I didn't realize that people's friends can see the post, and that people themselves see the post if you hide it. So in a way, what you're saying, what they're receiving is nothing. They're not receiving any feedback at all. They think they're getting away with it. Their friends think that they're getting away with it, and they're not going to change their behavior. So I'm thinking we should just delete the posts if they find a way around our, swear word filter and insult filter, and are still really out of line. That we should just delete it. What do you think, Jeanene?
Well, until I saw that, I didn't really realize that after I'd hidden something, that I actually had the opportunity to delete it. And frankly, I'm all about deleting it, so I agree with this comment as well. What I didn't want to do was necessarily ban someone, because people like to say if their post disappears, then they've been banned, and that's not true. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that a good thing to do in the newsroom call would be to talk about who did you hide or who did you delete this week. Because the same guys troll our site on different posts. As a matter of fact, I've gone into other people's posts and seen mischief from somebody and just, boom, hid them. I at least hide them. So you may want sort of an etiquette of this. Like, okay, if Jeanene sees something in Dan's post, Jeanene can hide, but Jeanene can't delete. But if Dan sees something in Dan's post, Dan can delete or ban. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of an etiquette, a rule of the road. And we're all going to have different thresholds of action, that is for sure. But I tested what Dan posted. I tested what happens after I hide it. And there it was. So I learned something today. What do you think about that?
Well, here's Dan.
So, first of all, you're welcome. Second of all, second of all, I am not advocating necessarily for no feedback. I've always liked what I took that whole cue from you, Jeanene. There are people that will write like a really nice post, but it'll have one bad word in it, right? You can tell the difference between that and somebody that just goes, fuck all you fucking fucks in the fucking Republican fucking party. That's a delete and very possibly a ban. So I think we're adults and we can tell the difference between somebody who messed up with one word, and then I always give those people feedback, and I say, hey, please just change this one word to freaking, and then repost because it's a great post, right? So I think it's just a matter of being adult about it and saying, okay, this person messed up this one thing, but other than that, it was a good thought. And some things are just like, you're an idiot, Who needs those, right? So I think feedback is important in the right times. Banning, I never banned anybody off of one post, but you see the same people all the time, and it's almost to be like a 3 strikes and you're out. Or you're deleted the second time, you're banned for a week, and the next time you're banned for life or whatever. I think there's a way to codify a penal system that's pretty simple and pretty easy to follow.
Okay. Let's work on that separately and just convey to the new recruits that they should consult one of us before they ban somebody. Okay? Should we do that?
I agree.
I like that.
3 to agree.
I like it. Oh, yeah, I'll hit my 3.
Okay, cool. Now, we only have 8 minutes, right, in the call. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So this next one we've been through over and over and over again, and so, I'm sure that Egberto would want to weigh in. But what I'm looking for is a number of posts, and this is the number that the team came up with, that would be appropriate so that we're both allowing people to benefit from being part of this network by sending stuff to their personal websites, but at the same time not have it dominate or, if we have a situation where there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people competing to get the most exposure for their personal websites using our social media network, it's gonna, I don't know, I just think it certainly would be time consuming for me trying to convince them to do less of this without having any sort of guidelines. So to me, this, along with everything else that we've discussed, is pretty much common sense, and it's something that we the team that put this together, the example I used was my own interest in sharing Story of America pages, and they came up with the number of 2. I suggested 3. They came up with the number of 2 just because they want to feel like the coffee party is an expression of a collective sense of not just the responsibility to the members but to the country to use the page for a common good, not for a personal good. And I'll check hands. Well, we got 3 hands. Who? Jeanene, did you notice who was first?
I wasn't looking, but I could hear by the clicks I was not the first.
I was the last.
Okay.
So whoever else is left.
I think I was first. I've been trying to hit one for a while.
Okay, go Egberto.
All right, here's the deal. First of all, Eric, I think the characterization that you make about they wanted, the person that got 2 was, there was one person who suggested 2, and I recall exactly who it was that wanted 2. Secondly, I think that was the way that question came across was what I call a push-pull, because the reality is by framing the discussion as far as, and I'm going to speak to my website because that's the genesis of this whole issue, my website. The framing of that issue was done as somebody who is taking advantage, not necessarily taking advantage of coffee party, because I think when you implied that, you got some pushback from other members who said, no, you can't self-promote. Even from some of your loyalists, they said, no, that wasn't the right way to put it. Now, as far as I am concerned, however, as I said, my voice is my blog. All over the country, that's my voice, the blog, and that's how I speak. To put a restriction on let's say, on a page, I can understand the restriction on a website. To put a restriction on a page actually removes how pages really work in the first place. But that said, one of the biggest concerns I have is the implication that my site, the implication that my site, I lost my train of thought for a while, my site has a bigger voice. My site within Coffee Party does not have a bigger voice by intent. It only has a bigger voice because it's been consistent that I blog. It's been consistent that, and that in effect, Jeanene blogs from somewhere else, but some of us have been consistent while others have not been. I think before we even take up an issue like this, we need to bring some consistency to the page where many people, like I said in my my document, would be posting on an hourly basis. We are underutilizing the page, not because of anything that I'm doing, but because we simply don't have people that are putting content up there. But lastly, when we speak about the implication that somehow it's a singular benefit of, let's say, my site to from Coffee Party, that is not the case. The singular benefit of my site and other properties where I blog to Coffee Party is much more than the reverse if we take into account the other properties that I'm at. Every property that I'm at whether it's a blog post that goes on to Coffee Party or not, links back to Coffee Party, which is one factor in whatever ranking it would be. And in fact, one of the things that I suggested to all is that we need more link backs, and as I specified on the side of the post and as well in the document, more link backs from individuals using these properties back into Coffee Party to ensure that we have, first of all, that we have ranking increase and that we have many voices. I think it's a false discussion because of one of your personal feelings, actually, Eric. Maybe there are some other people, but they definitely don't represent the majority. I know what comes to my website. I know how the majority of people feel about what I post. I know the emails that I get as well. So I think we're spending a lot of time on this issue, and it's a one issue, to put it bluntly, that has me a bit perturbed. I think a lot of the things that we're discussing here is okay. Again, I think this one needs to be off the table. Thank you.
Jeanene, you're next.
Thanks. So I have 3 questions here. And Eric, you know that I participated in the newsroom calls with this as well. The first question is, should the number be 2? And Egberto addressed that, so I won't dwell on that. My second question is, what about the kind of smarty pants self-promotion? And in the comments to the doc, what I said is, okay, so 2 days I go to I post from my personal Facebook page, and 2 days I post from my special interest Facebook page. In my case, that would be Lunch with Louden. In someone else's case, it might be a different page. And then 2 days I post from my WordPress blog spot, my blogging posting. And so is that not self-promotion? So I think that at a minimum, the document needs to address what that means, because, we all have multiple assets. And so is the question, are you only twice per week per asset, or twice per week per asset related to me? And then the third question I have is, should Egberto's post be only 2? Because we've given the ability for someone to appeal to the board and say, I want to post more than twice in what we're calling, quote-unquote, posting to your personal asset. I refuse to use the term self-promoting, because I think that turns the question in an inappropriate direction. And so my training in logic and reason would say that word is a false lead. And so what I want to say is, if this is just about reducing Egberto, then we need to address that issue separately from this. And if indeed it is just to talk about Egberto's post, then should we actually limit other sites or other assets to only 2? It's like Upworthy posts 7 times a week, and Annabelle does, a couple times to her personal page, a couple times to Bridge to the Divide, a couple times to Story of America. I mean, what is the actual objective here? That's my question to everybody. What is the objective? Therefore, I'd know how to answer it. Thank you.
Right. I can answer that, but let's go to Dan first.
So I first of all, this is I hate that this is such a divisive topic, and I'm not sure it has to be. So I want to approach this from a totally different angle. I want to approach this from a marketing angle.
Okay.
Since I've joined this organization, I have heard one thing. Our biggest asset, by far, no question about it, is our Facebook page with the 400, 500, 10,000 billion likes, whatever. But people come there, hundreds of thousands of viewers every day, right? Now here's what I'm thinking. Why are we sending them anywhere off of a coffee party asset when we should be utilizing that traffic to drive additional interest in the coffee party? So that's why I've always said the answer to me to this is really simple. if you have a blog and you want to post a blog and reference a blog, cut and paste your blog onto the Coffee Party website so that people stay on the Coffee Party website. And then even put a link on it going, go back to the Facebook page if you want. But to me, I think we're missing a huge opportunity. We're missing a huge opportunity to drive additional traffic to Coffee Party assets. That's what I have to say.
Okay, Cameron hits 3 to agree. So I wrote a response to you on the document, Dan. It's a great point. And the first response is that Stupid is designed to do just that. And then the second response is that would be great if someone as prolific as Egberto would create content that's civil and transpartisan for a Coffee Party type of. It doesn't have to be Stupid. It could be WordPress or Nation Builder, whatever. That would be great. But to answer your question, Jeanene, what we're aiming for is we want these new people to be sort of insulated from all of this ugliness and sort of infighting that the board has been seized with for so long. We want them to feel that there are some principles and guidelines that are above any personal interest, and that we work together as a team to remind each other when sometimes we may feel, oh gosh, my film has just come out. And Egberto, you weren't on the call when we discussed this. You came in at the end of the fourth call, but this was something we did in either the first or the second one. But what I was saying is that sometimes you have this sense that, oh, this is totally appropriate, but you need a team of people to just remind you that there's also a common, where we all overlap is we care about the Coffee Party. But we have separate interests that we may very much want to use the Coffee Party's platform to promote. And what we want to convey to our new recruits is it's not open season here. There are some guidelines and goals. And what I think would be completely appropriate would be if we said, we like these goals, we thank you for putting this together, we endorse this, but we've decided that Egberto is exempt from the rules. That would be fine, but I think that the board should have a vote on that so that basically the public, and especially our key volunteers, understand that the board took action, not that Egberto gradually, stretched and pushed and carved out his own rules and we didn't do anything about it. That's lame. I think it should be we voted to affirm that the rules apply to everyone but Egberto. Okay, Egberto and then Cameron.
That doesn't. I mean, Egberto does not want any rule that only. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Egberto does not want any rule that only applies to Egberto. I want the rule, and I think I explained it in the document. And this is what behooves me, because it's not like I didn't write it down. The more external bloggers we have with links going into Coffee Party, the more, from a point of view of ranking, the more ranking we get, number one. Number two, with respect to the page, I spoke about the dissection of the page from bringing a lot of people in with as I spoke before. So I mean, we're talking past each other now, and to mention that it's some sort of a force feeding, Eric, that is not what is going on. I'm saying the only person on the board that has brought up this issue specifically is you and maybe a few people. My postings. The coverage that my postings have gotten from the people, including many Coffee Party members, have all been mostly positive. By you trying to institute some sort of a rule to change this particular procedure, now that folks decide to engage, remember, we never stopped engaging. We never did. We've been engaging consistently for the past several years when people come and go. Now that folks are deciding to re-engage, to come and say, okay, we want things to modify X, Y, Z, I cannot accept that. That that is like somebody like the prodigal son going away and coming back and getting all the flourish. No, that doesn't work. I'm sorry. And I think I laid out the position clearly in the document, and I don't know what's difficult to understand. That right now, instead of attempting to understand what was written, I think we're still trying to get to the position of limiting Egberto's website on the page, as opposed to trying to understand what we're saying. As opposed to understanding what we're saying, you're just changing the stuff. No, that shouldn't fly.
Okay, we have Cameron and then Jeanene, and then we'll bring it to.
So, does everybody here know who Adam Smith is?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. So, the invisible hand, in terms of the way that our economy runs, was implemented because prior to the invisible hand and Adam Smith, you had protectionary tariffs. You had all of these things where people would be protective of their industry. And what happened? You had industries that were isolated and nothing grew. And the reason that nothing grew is because you didn't open up your trade. I'm sort of seeing a parallel here. If we're not allowing for one person or one situation to happen, if we're putting a protectionary tariff, so to speak, on what we're doing, then if we're going to go full isolationist, let's take a good hard look at what that means. That means nobody, nothing other than the actual controls of what Coffee Party is and what Coffee Party puts out gets to have any airtime whatsoever. And I don't really support the limiting or the censorship of free speech. What I said is, and I said this earlier tonight, that if people want to put out opinion pieces about how they feel about something to get rhetoric so we can get traffic to the page, I'm all for it. We put that in one separate section on our blog. We take a different blog or that we have that is truly transpartisan. We put that up a different way. But in reference to this, I think all traffic is good traffic, because more traffic we have means more eyeballs on what we're doing, and which means that we have more viewership. So by limiting, I don't think it's going to do us any good. I think putting in a protectionary tariff on who can say what and how they say it is not the answer. Moving that situation where if we want to have people who project their own blogs, we can have a section in the opinion side of that where, Story of America can do it, Egberto can do it, Polyblogs can do it, Jeanene Louden can do it. I think that there's no issues with that. I think the more discussion is better discussion, because it just gets everybody talking. But I don't think the discussion about having throttle controls on a Facebook page in reference to very specific individuals having a benefit that comes from that is going to limit the amount of it's not going to do what we want it to do. We want to have more open dialogue. And so what we might have to do is put in a basic wording that this is coming from an opinion piece at the very beginning, so people understand that this isn't the discussion point of the Coffee Party, but this is an opinion piece and can be found at the opinion blog on our website. That way we can actually have some control of messaging. I understand the concern, but I'm not really for the whole throttling back of how and when things are posted on Facebook. I would venture to say I'm all for the repackaging of what we post on Facebook and in what way. That way people know it's an opinion piece. And that's my 2 cents. Jeanene, you're up.
Oh, thanks. So the first thing I'm going to point out is that there's been no actual discussion about my question, what about this smarty pants kind of posting where it's 2 days from one asset, 2 days from another asset, and 2 days from another. And I assert that there's no comment about it because it's kind of a subjective thing, and if our goal is to bring these things weekly to the newsroom, then that will actually be brought up. You know what I mean? It would be a part of the artist's critique, so to speak. The second thing I want to point out is I sort of want to get down and dirty here for just a minute. I have been monitoring Egberto ever since the day this became an issue, Egberto posting every day from his own website. And I found a couple of things. One thing I found out was that he was actually kicked off our website. or encouraged to leave the Coffee Party website. And so what he did instead was do this website of his own. 2, he has never missed a day, except maybe the day he asked me to cover for him and I didn't get the email till the day after. I mean, seriously, he's never been irresponsible. And 3 is that because I've been monitoring his post every day, pretty much every day, since this became an issue, what I've noticed is when I make a comment to Egberto, he responds. And so I would assert that the Egberto Willies posts you see today are not necessarily the same posts you would have seen 4 months ago or 3 months ago, and that because I took the time to comment to him and say, you know, I'd really rather the lead was this, or I'd really rather you didn't use words like that. One day, as Egberto can tell you, I deleted his friggin' post. And so I don't like it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to being an employer. I never respected people who would compromise the entire work group or chastise the entire work group because they didn't like what one person did. And they didn't have the balls to say, I don't like what you did. Instead, they would say, there's this tendency for people to do this, and I don't want it to happen anymore. I never had any respect for that because the truth was there was one person who'd broken some unspoken rule or some spoken rule. And so I want to raise the questions I raised before was, is 2 actually based on any truth, or is it a notion or a theory that would be bad to do more than that? And 2, should Egberto be only 2 tons a week? Those are 2 separate questions, and they are, I'm all about having constraints, but I'm not about pretending that the constraint is about anybody but Egberto, if indeed it's just about him. Thanks.
Okay, well, real quickly, I mean, Bernie Madoff could say the same thing. You know, it feels like these laws against taking people's money and giving it to other people and enriching yourself is really only targeting him because he's the one who went to jail. But
true.
What we're really asking ourselves is not about Egberto. And I know Egberto is really, really trying to protect his ability to exploit Coffee Party resources for himself as, you know, above all else. And the problem with the suggestion of Cameron and Dan is that it's not going to send traffic to Egberto's website if he posts stuff to our own website. And Jeanene, it's not true that he was encouraged to leave. He got frustrated because the blogs that we wrote together, I insisted that they were civil and transpartisan. So let me just put it to you guys this way. In terms of opening the door to 6 or 7 people who are going to either be given the idea that use our assets to promote your own small business as much as you like, or there's some room for that, but there's a limitation. What do we want to tell them? As far as Egberto's interests, we can vote separately to give him unfettered access above all others to promote his website. Okay, let's go to Dan and then Egberto, and then we'll vote. Go ahead, Dan.
So, I'm sorry. This is getting very frustrating because, again, it's getting personal, and I just don't see any reason to do that. You know what? Okay. Here's all I'm going to say. This is if we want to have extra meetings, this should be at an extra meeting. This should be its own meeting, and I'm happy to do that. And it should have an agenda and da. So this is a perfect reason to have extra meetings. And Jeanene, just to answer your question, I answer your question, but not directly about should it be 2. I say it should be 0. I say we should always be driving people to Coffee Party assets. So that was my way of not saying 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 10. It was my way of saying 0. So that's it. I'll be done. I'm just too upset.
Thanks.
We couldn't hear you last bit, Dan. Did you want to repeat it?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I think everybody saw that or listened to that. That was my website, traffic, my small business, all these issues that come up. I mean, let me handle Dan first as far as the thing, Dan. As far as zero from your site. I mean, I find it sort of like I said, I spend my time and will spend my time building up the Coffee Party brand, the Coffee Party website, etc. I can do that. One. Number two, as far as asking me not to blog from my website, of course that is unfair. Saying, oh, zero blogs and put everything into Coffee Party. Hey, I work a lot to get all these things done. But the thing that is most difficult is to listen to Eric say, Egberto's small business, Egberto's usage of the Coffee Party asset, Egberto's usage of all these things. Let's back that up. What about Coffee Party usage of Egberto in its totality? Let's get serious here. The reality here is that Coffee Party sustenance has a lot to do with those of us who stayed and kept it viable. That page would have gone to hell, sir, if we had not kept it viable when the other folks fled. Number two, don't quote or stop. I mean, it changes this conversation from a civil conversation, Eric, when you put it that way, because that's exactly what it is, uncivility with a tonality that is less than. So don't preach to me, my dear friend, that somehow I have taken more from the Coffee Party than I've given to the Coffee Party. I have given to the Coffee Party quite a bit over the last 4 years. Thank you very much, both financially and otherwise. I don't think the converse is true. Likewise,
okay, well,
I've got to, sir, I'm not done. I've waited for everybody to speak.
Okay,
the converse is not.
Yeah,
the converse is not true. Others have extracted much wealth from Coffee Party. The several $100,000 that we've had in Coffee Party didn't go to Egberto. So please, whenever you're framing conversations, do not frame it financially, because on this call, the only person that has benefited from Coffee Party financially with their wherewithal, Eric, is you. So don't dare, sir, put a financial motive on myself when the converse is what's the actuality. Don't you dare do that.
We don't really know, Egberto, because you refuse to fill out the conflict of interest form.
I don't care what you have to say about that. My webpage, my dear friend, is no different than any webpage with ads on it. No different. And I don't need to forward you anything because I've asked Coffee Party for nothing. You have asked Coffee Party for thousands, and Coffee Party has given you thousands. That's a fact that can be quantified. You cannot quantify any other fact than that. The only fact we know on this call right now is that several $1,000s of Coffee Party has gone to you, and several $1,000s of Coffee Party has gone to Annabelle. So do not open a door where you will fall right through.
Well, that's not accurate, Egberto. I'm actually in the hole several $1,000s.
Sir, you're not in the hole because your profit margins on those DVDs that you provided us, sir, I know what they are. So please don't. The second thing, hold on, Eric, I'm not done. The second thing that I want to say is that.
Okay, Egberto, I wasn't paid for those. Okay, I donated those as far as the facts go. I've never been reimbursed for those. They cost $1 to make. So whatever number it is, that's one of the many ways in which this is being far too personal. What we really need to do is think about what's best for the Coffee Party. Okay? Do we want an open competition for the kind of posts that reflect that the Coffee Party page is basically for the use of those people who are lucky enough to get in, or do we want to convey that there are some guidelines? Okay, Cameron, that's where
I'll let you. Yeah. I was going to say I'll let you keep going, but I got a one up here. So
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my ultimate point here is that and I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, when it really comes down to it, Egberto has links back from his site to Coffee Party. I've gone onto his website. He's got Coffee Party this, Coffee Party that. Get this. I understand where your logic here is, Eric. But the same is not true in any way, shape, or form for Story of America. The same isn't true for Charlotte Sun-Times. The same isn't true for 9500 Liberty. The same isn't true for a lot of different people who have had that same exact thing happen. I understand money's been put into this, but hold on. Let me finish my thought here. I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. I'm just going to get both sides of this kind of fleshed out.
Okay, Coffee Party is in the credits of
yes.
9500 Liberty. Okay, when 9500 Liberty came out, Coffee Party and 9500 Liberty were very much linked.
That's right.
To make sure.
No. Okay. No. You want to get the facts on it. Got it. I understand.
And
that's true. No, you're right.
I
have this in again. But my point here is that you're getting to an issue here where it's been Egberto this, Egberto this, Egberto this, Egberto this, and the approach you're taking here is pejorative against him, and it's not actually something that is working towards a resolution. The solution here is that I see is that for anybody, including Story of America, including Egberto Willies, including polyblogs, for God's sakes, I haven't done any of this on the Facebook page, but whatever, that the solution is that you have an opinion blog rather than turning around and making it a public policy that people, when they come onto this, have to sit there and say, I can't do anything on the Facebook page. Well, rather than try and limit free speech, find an alternative here that actually makes a little bit of sense. I don't care in any way, shape, or form, and I don't think any of the Coffee Party would as well. If we put this argument in front of them, they think that idiots were running the party. If we're not trying to find solutions, we're sitting here trying to just argue. It's not gonna make anything better for what we want. So the more, if it's between less speech or more speech, I vote more speech, generally speaking. But if we want to compartmentalize that, that makes a little bit of sense to me. But if what you're trying to do here is to throttle back because your approach here is the argument here is Egberto's really just looking out for his own self, the truth is that may be true for him, but it's also true for you. It's true for me. It's true for Jeanene. It's true for, well, I'm not sure if it's true for Dan. I know from this perspective that everybody is going to be trying to look out for the best use of their time. And that's just the way it is.
300 to agree, Cameron. That's why when I put it to the team, I only spoke really about my own interest. And they, some of them were like, "Oh, Eric, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it," because they thought that I was like torn up about it. I'm not torn up about it. I know what would be appropriate, at least from my own sensibility, in terms of how frequent that page is used for a personal interest. That's I'm not torn up about it. Whether Egberto's granted 9 times a week or he's granted 2, I'm only going to do it 2 or less. So it's not really a matter of
a comparison.
It's not a matter of any of our own personal interests. Okay, it's just a question of what do we want to convey to the new recruits. And like I said, we can have a separate vote that increases the number for Egberto. But one last thing. It sounds like a grand solution has been put forward by the combination of Dan, Jeanene, and Cameron, and that is above the number of 2, if the post is something that you want, that is your personal opinion or whatever, that if it goes first to a Coffee Party page and then bounces to your page, so that Coffee Party also receives some of the search engine web traffic benefit, then the limit is not, then it's above 2 if the other 5, or in Egberto's case, the other 7, go to a page such as Blog Talk Radio that, Egberto could, with his 2 Blog Talk Radio posts, he could send it to Blog Talk Radio for Coffee Party, not to his website. And then the bounce goes to Coffee Party, right? And then he could use the other 5 to put in he could basically be the one person who launches the opinion section of Coffee Party, so that that benefit really is the only capital we have. It's the only thing we really have to offer people is the joy of feeling heard, so that's the Coffee Party as well. So the question is to Egberto, and he does have his hand up, would you still feel the urge to work as hard as you do and contribute to the Coffee Party's Facebook management if only 2 of the posts went to your site and the other 5 went to Coffee Party sites?
Can I?
Now,
I'll make you.
Let me before. Why did you keep taking my silence in my mic? I'm in a quiet area. Why did you keep silence in my mic?
Well, Egberto, I can answer that because earlier I didn't know you were in a quiet area. It was really noisy, so I probably started that. And so I apologize if you're now in a quiet area. Earlier you were not.
Okay. Have you noticed Eric just took what you said, Jeanene, and what Cameron said and came out with a narrative that didn't come close to relating to what your narrative was? That is the kind of narrative that we get out of these meetings. So let me just put it quite frank. Let me put it quite frankly what it is that I will support. Eric, no change with the way we're blogging. I will support, as I specified in the document, that we encourage other bloggers to post directly to our page. Our page is just that, a page. A page has unfettered access to the entire Internet. We want more controls. We do as was proposed in the document again, and that is through a separate group. You are the reason that we keep on this issue is that the way Eric is operating is we keep hitting it on the brow until he gets what he wants. No change. We bring more people onto we make more voices available because there should be more voices available. The only reason they're not available is people don't stay consistent. My God, Eric, you have not kept consistent. So I have done my part. No change. Thank you. And by the way, the reason what I write is I don't sit down and copy and paste a couple of things from a story and put it out there. I read several stories. I analyze the stories. I come out with a story, and I am, my stuff is copied everywhere, sir. Everywhere. So it's not like I just come out with some kind of a story that is thrown together. These are well analyzed stories that are syndicated and taken other places. So please, what I said stands. Your problem is not with a procedure or process. Your problem is with me, and I hope the board realizes that his problem is not with procedure or process, it's with me. And he's continuously changed the way we change the terms of the argument to suit that. So no change.
Okay. So Egberto has sort of painted a picture for what the new social media platform will look like. I
put it in. I had it placed in the document. It's in the document.
Yeah. Okay. So, as Cameron stated, we all have different perspectives, and yes, as I said in my conflict of interest forum, if the Coffee Party were to live up to its brand promise more, it would be better for me because I'm a journalist, I'm a documentarian, I operate in a transpartisan space. The person I'm working with right now is a Republican mayor in Belhaven, North Carolina. So I do have an interest, and Egberto has an interest, and we all have interests. The reason why we have a deliberative body is to decide what's in the interest of this body, the Coffee Party, as a whole. Okay, so Egberto and I have a disagreement, and I'm sorry that Egberto's upset, and I'm sorry that this is unpleasant for you all. In the history of time, deliberative bodies that became paralyzed by the fear that someone would be angry at them did not end up making the right decision. So although there's anger in the air, although there's anger in the air, we have to ask ourselves what's best for the Coffee Party. We're about to bring in 6 people, maybe more. Do we want to establish for the Coffee Party a new era where it isn't just one person but several people who are really encouraged to primarily use their access to the site to promote a personal website of their own? Or do we want to...
There you go again. You see what I mean? I write stories, and he interprets it as me promoting a personal website, not me being a blogger. And that is a problem with the discussion, Eric. You have to respect people, Eric. You do not respect people. You do not respect their value. You do not respect their value.
Okay. Egberto, I don't think I respect your position. I respect you as a person. But
no, you don't. That is gibberish.
What would be wrong with the friendly amendment that's been offered that over and above 2 posts to a personal website, you're free to put your personal content.
Hold on. I had a 1 up here. Hold on. Somebody put my 1 down, and I had a 1 up. I've been very patient about this. I had to make a point. Okay, one of these points, Eric, is that there is a page that we can create on Nation Builder that allows a redirect. So if you just have the page go to the redirect, and the redirect then goes to Egberto Willies or Story of America, we will get a hit without them actually hitting our website. Just figured I'd let everybody know, because it's probably beneficial to Coffee Party to have that in place. Would you not agree?
Yeah, those are all the things that we can do to accommodate both Egberto's interest and the Coffee Party.
It's not just Egberto's interest. It's your interest. It's Jeanene's interest. It's Dan's interest. It's my interest.
You know,
the one thing I'm getting. Hold on. The one thing I'm getting sick of is the continuous ad hominem argument that you're making here. It makes absolutely no sense for you to do it. I don't understand it, because the truth of it is, if you're looking for a solution here, and by the way, I come out from a place in a board meeting with no fear on this, is that if you're looking for a solution, you'll find the middle ground, to quote you. But the truth of it is, that's not what you're doing here. You're going after him, and it doesn't make any sense to me, at least, to understand why, other than the fact that his politics are a certain way, and he's been inflammatory on some of his posts, and you're utilizing an excuse to protect the brand to do so. And I don't think that your argument, from a logical perspective, from a common sense perspective, in my part, holds that much water. If that's what you're doing, right, you're trying to find the common solution, keeping after him is not going to get you what you want with me. I don't think it'll get you what you want with the rest of the people on the board, but that's my personal opinion. I'm just looking at it from your perspective. If what you're trying to do here is to ensure that our brand is protected, I am providing you a solution. Continuing down this road of policy is not really going to get you what you want, at least with me. And with that, I'll yield my time.
Okay. All I want, Cameron, is for the board to take responsibility for the content that we share. It's not the slow creeping thing that we just gave into. We want to affirmatively vote. So with this vote, we are either going to vote that we want to have the kind of guidelines that the new people who have really almost no, Egberto came in at the very end of it, but they had no idea that there was any kind of, problem with all of this stuff, okay? We either are going to endorse what they came up with without any of this BS.
Why would you say that? I was at every one of those meetings. It's only the last meeting that I came in late. You know that.
Well,
you know that, Eric.
And I've only been on 2 of those meeting calls because I've only been able to be on 2 of those meeting calls. Continue.
They're all recorded. But in any case, look, you guys have. I'm not going to be angry if you guys want to free me and everyone up to do as much of this, whatever term you want it. But if you guys would like to see Story of America there every day, I'm happy to do it. The movie's about to come out. There's a movement that is dependent in some ways on social media. I'm totally fine with it. I just want the board to take responsibility for the public face of the Coffee Party. I don't want it to anymore be this quiet internal contest where the rules are not clear and we argue it out. So let's vote. And if I'm telling you, I will not be upset at all. But I want it in the record who voted and how that the Coffee Party endorsed a model where those who are lucky enough to get access to the page essentially have no guidelines, at least not with respect to this question. Okay? Is there any further?
Jeanene is right about this, though. If you take a look at this, and she just dropped out of the call for this reason. Story of America is every day now. And I think she dropped out of the call so that we wouldn't have a quorum to be able to do this, which makes a little bit of sense. But in reference to it, the argument is a mute argument, not because that we don't want Story of America or we do want Story of America. It's a matter of the limitation of policy. I continually agree with the fact that we need to onboard these new people and have a structure that, in the way that you're describing it, isn't necessarily a structure that I'm 100% on either. But in reference to it, if you really want to have a good structure, then giving them a place where they feel comfortable to put out their partisan views is probably something better to approach it with. And throwing that into policy makes some sense. But just trying to limit speech based upon the avenue of, okay, go ahead, Dan. I know you're going to go back to we shouldn't have anybody putting anything on Facebook.
No, I'm not at all. Did you say Jeanene dropped off this call?
She did.
Okay, so this has to end, and it has to end now. This is the second time that this woman of incredible patience and incredible intelligence has been forced off this call because of the waging of this argument. Last time she got physically ill from this. This is ridiculous. This is a rehashing of the same old, and it's got to be resolved one way or another, and it's got to stop.
I mean, the solution is, listen, there's only one person keeping this stuff alive, and that is Eric Byler. That's the only person keeping it alive.
Egberto, I'm sorry, my friend, it takes two to argue. Again, if Eric really was interested in a document of civility, as I mentioned in that thing, remove that false statement, and the rest of the document would be fine. But he does. But that's not the whole issue of this. And this was stated by several. Is to go around the board and come with some false way of clipping my wings. And if that is ever led to succeed, this is like I've explained to all of you before. This isn't the first time that things like this have gone. Do you think the other boards of directors have disappeared for any other reason? Please. I mean, this is just modus operandi. It is just modus operandi. Whatever. Hold on. This is my board. So hold on. So here's what I'm going to do. Eric, I would respectfully request that you take this paragraph out of this document for the time being, that we vote on the document, the rest of the document as a whole. I think it will pass, and that we come and revisit this on a special meeting. We can always amend the document. But really, we're a half an hour over time, 40 minutes over time, and we've made Jeanene once again drop off this call. So please, can we take this one paragraph out, vote on the rest of the document, and come back and revisit this in the special meeting? Will you accept that amendment?
Yes, I accept it.
Thank you.
I just what I want is I want to get a vote on the motion first. So let's just vote on the motion to amend first. So hit 1 to take that paragraph off.
No, sir. You don't have to vote on that. We haven't passed the document. You are the submitter of the document. You can, as an amendment, just remove it. We don't need to vote on it. If you agree to remove that, it's gone.
Okay, but I mean, wouldn't you guys vote for it if I asked for a vote?
Eric, all you have to do is, first of all, we can't even vote, right? Because we're not a quorum, right? So this all moot now.
We got 2/3.
No, we have more than.
Okay, never mind then. Oh, okay, Eric, you can refuse to remove it. You can say, I respectfully deny your request for removing it. That's all you have to say, and then since the motion's been first seconded and discussed, you can call for a vote.
Okay, but what I would love to do is get the thing removed with a vote. Well, I want you guys to vote to remove it, and then we'll vote to approve it without that paragraph.
All right, let's do it.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm
Well,
calling.
wait a second now. Well, wait. If we're going to do this formally, then I want to make clear what my motion is. I motion that we table this paragraph. In other words, it's not being removed, it's being tabled. for further discussion, but then the rest of it we vote on. I'm not saying take it out, period, and never revisit it. I'm saying just table it.
Okay. Do we have a second for that motion to amend?
Oh, I will.
I'll second
that. Oh, Egberto, cool.
No, you take it, Cameron. It's fine.
Yeah.
I heard Cameron. Okay. So let's have a vote on that amendment. 1 for yes, 2 for no.
And this is to remove the remove it, right?
Yeah, to remove
Table. We're tabling
it. We're tabling it.
All right.
Table it.
Okay.
Very different.
Okay, table it. Egberto, I don't see your 1.
I just hit it.
Okay, great. All right, so the vote is 3-1 to table this until later. And like I said, guys, I'm not going to be angry. This is totally fine. I'm going to, tomorrow night, I'm going to introduce the guidelines. I'll probably make some other small changes based on your guys' feedback. And I don't think
No. No changes. You can't make any changes. Provide that
The motion's up on the floor.
to the group.
Yeah. Any amendments have to be voted on.
All right, fine. We'll leave it as is, but I'm just going to clean up some stuff that really should be in the comments section that Dan put in. So, okay, it'll be as is, and nobody's going to be upset. It is totally fine. But this is a thing that we had to make a decision on as a board. It can't just be a fight between Eric and Egberto. It has to be a decision. So thanks for suffering through all of that, and let's try to make it up to Jeanene somehow.
Oh, I'm not sure that it's going to have to be us, man. Nothing against you. It's just in a board call, especially when somebody gets pissed off. I would venture to say.
I mean, I think we should. Again, there are certain items that if we're talking civility, you simply leave alone and you watch how things work. There are new people that want to come in. They want to make this country better. Come on in to the fold. I don't believe in sugarcoating. I think we have if we can get past the nitty-gritty little things, the things that I am working with Jeanene and Justin as far as where to move the website and creating the new online guides. I mean, that'll move us forward. We have to remember, nothing that Eric is proposing right now with the media group or anything is anything new. Everything that we have done as Coffee Party thus far with regards to attempting these items have so far failed. I think it's a time for a new direction that really gives you the opportunity to move on. And a lot of us have stepped back for a long time. I think it is time for us to really step up and say, okay, let's go ahead and do this. But to do that, Eric, you're going to have to just step back sometimes and let things happen. Because, again, a lot of times a lot of things don't happen because there's always a stop.
This discussion is out of order. Call the vote.
Okay.
I got things to do.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'm 46 minutes.
we're now voting we're voting to endorse the guidelines. Hit 1 for yes, 2 for no.
That's paragraph 6.
I'm sorry, is it paragraph 6 or paragraph 5?
Well, whichever one. Stands the paragraph we tabled.
Yeah, without that paragraph.
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
Okay, I voted for it. Egberto has, Dan has, and Cameron has. Okay. All right. Since there's no women on the call, I move we don't have checkouts.
All right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
All right. Good night,
I gotta
everybody.
run anyway.
Good night.
You,
Bye.
No hurt feelings.
Take it easy.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, no worries. Have a great night. Bye, guys.
You are currently the only. 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 You are currently the only.